A, to let everybody get into the room, and B, to get our YouTube feed synced up. You're here for the 7th grade, Rising 7th grade middle school course selection night. Your student is currently in 6th grade, and we're going into 7th grade, and that's what this session is for. Going to give this just a few more seconds to let the room level out. Our YouTube feed is good, so that's good. So our folks watching in the land of YouTube, hello, welcome. And as we're waiting here, just some best practices for everybody in the audience watching tonight. So we've got a presentation here, lots of information to get through. The way you're going to ask questions tonight is going to be on your Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. That's where you'll type questions. We always ask, let us present first. Let us get through the presentation, because we're probably going to answer many of the questions you may have right off the top through the presentation. And then after the presentation's over, that's where you'd put your questions in the Q&A on the button at the bottom. Now, if there's something very particular about your student, very specific about the needs your student has, we always ask you to contact your school counselor at your elementary school and begin to ask those questions. We're going to answer general questions tonight. So if you have very specific questions, we probably won't get to those questions tonight, but we will do our best. All right, I've talked long enough. I'd like to begin the night. We're ready to begin with Dr. Michael McKenna, who's our Director of Elementary Education, a proud graduate of Gwinnett Square Elementary School. Accurate? Is that accurate?
Oh, it's Inglewood, Mr. Gill.
Inglewood. I don't know why I was thinking Gwinnett Square. Sorry about that. I think because you're good friends with my partner in television, Kyle Berger, who was Gwinnett Square, and I confused you guys up. Inglewood, that's where my kids went. We all welcome Dr. Michael McKenna to our webinar tonight. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmer. Well, welcome North Penn families to the Rising 7th grade middle school course information night. Again, I'm Dr. Michael McKenna, the Director of Elementary Education. We definitely want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for very important information. We're going to start with some introductions. At first, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tamaro Jenkins.
Hi, everybody. I'm having some connectivity issues, so you don't get to see my beautiful face just yet. But I wanted to welcome you to tonight. Thank you for joining us. I am Dr. Jenkins, principal at Pembroke Middle School.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am Kyle Hassler. I am the principal at Penndale Middle School. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I am Sean O'Sullivan. I am the principal of Penfield Middle School.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesse Clancy. I am the 7th grade counselor at Pembroke Middle School.
Hey, everyone. How you doing? I'm Michael Flynn. I'm a school counselor at Penndale Middle School. Can't wait to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Jill Conti. I'm the 7th grade counselor at Penfield Middle School.
Hey, everyone. So I'm going to talk a little bit about middle school structure, and then I'm going to hand it over to, I believe, Mr. Clancy, who's going to talk a little bit, and then Mrs. Conti is going to talk some too. So that was the typical middle school structure. We work on a 6-day cycle at the middle school. So you'll see it's A through F days. All of your majors will meet every day. The 6-day cycle will be most important for 7th graders for their cyclical minors, which would be PE, music, and exploratory language.
Just to cover the required major subjects that students will have in 7th grade. All 7th graders are going to take English. They're going to take world cultures as their social studies course. They're going to take a math course, integrated science, and literacy explorations is the 5th major there. For those students that have a gifted IEP, there is the option to take a class called Gifted Seminar. And then for required minor subjects, these are the what are sometimes referred to as specials in 7th grade. Students will have a marking period of these courses: Art Foundations, Exploring Entrepreneurship, Family and Consumer Science, and Health. And then the cyclical minors that Mr. Flynn had referenced just earlier there. Music, students have the choice between taking 4 types of music in 7th grade. Students will also take physical education and then exploratory language, and they'll have those languages broken down by a trimester. So they'll get to experience Spanish, French, and German. For our major subject classes of English, world cultures, and science, there are 2 levels available to students, a level 6 and then a level 6P. The level 6, as you can see on the left, is the standard track for students. It is kind of the default level for students. The difference being with the 6P course that there's an independent project that the teachers will facilitate, but the students will be responsible for as a part of the course. It does the course move at a faster pace. There's more independence put on the students and a little bit more intrinsic self-motivation required of the students in that course. So it's something that your child's 6th grade teachers will be recommending. And if you certainly have any questions about the levels, it would be a great opportunity for you to engage with the 6th grade teachers to get their feedback. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Conti to talk a little bit more about the process for course selection.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. So the course selection process has already begun. Your 6th grade teachers are making level recommendations right now. They'll put those into Infinite Campus so that we are able to build a schedule based off of those recommendations. So those will be covered for the English 7, the math, world cultures and geography, and the integrated science 7. The recommendations will be either the 6 or the 6P for all of those classes. Again, if you have level questions, your best contact is the elementary school teacher or counselor, as they are most familiar with your student. We haven't had the pleasure yet to meet them. And then we're going to just talk. The only thing that the students really get to select is their music class, which is required that they take a music class in 7th grade. The options are band, chorus, orchestra, and exploring music. If your child is not a performer, is not interested in being on the stage, then that exploring music class is the option for them. That is the classroom music class. As you know, with everything, every year, we always have a deadline for course selection. This year it's April 29th, and that will be the final deadline for students and parents to initiate any changes. But up until then, you know, your elementary school is happy to answer questions regarding the selections and the recommendations. We don't have a whole lot else. A lot of the transition from elementary to middle school is more probably emotional. And so we don't have a whole lot of choices for them as far as courses go. So that is it. We'll just open it up to questions, I guess.
Yeah, and this is where I'll remind everybody. So the Q&A tab, I see some hands going up. So we're not going to do the hand part of this. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the Q&A portal at the bottom of your screen. And that's where you want to put those. One of the things to talk about, and I apologize I missed it because I'm just going to review it here. When would a parent know what level is recommended for their math? When does that typically, when would they see that as a parent, a 6th grade going into 7th grade parent? When would they know what their students going to take in math next year? I'll just throw that at you, Jill, because I'm staring at you right now because you're big on my screen. So
thanks so much. You know, anybody jump in here, but I feel that it's typically a conversation with the student. At least it is when we get to middle school. So I'm not sure at elementary if that happens, but there is typically the sheet that goes in the backpack eventually. And I do not have a date for that. Does anyone know the date that is actually going to be posted this year?
So I believe the elementary teachers are making their recommendations and everything should be in the backpack at the same time for all middle schoolers as well as elementary or rising middle schoolers, that April 10th window at that 3rd marking period time frame. So that's where we're all looking at that. It would be in, as Mrs. Conti said, I think it's going to be I believe it's the academic planner backpack where you'd be able to view that, but it won't be available for parents to view until April. I believe it's April 10th. Don't hold me on that. That's when 3rd marking period report cards are released at the secondary level. And that's where we release everything for our rising 7th grade students.
As far as the music, how does a student or parent choose that? When does that happen? Does that happen with the music teacher at the elementary school? Does that happen with the school counselor? If I want to be a band student in 7th grade, how do I say that, hey, I want band?
Usually happens with the music teacher in the elementary school. They help them make their decisions.
Excellent. A couple questions here. How do I choose a program for my child? Again, we kind of looked at that. There's not too much to choose from. It's all going to be about the level they might be placed at in math, and as well as picking the music course here. There are a couple questions about the gifted program. Is there anyone that can speak to what that might look like at the 7th grade level and how a student gets involved?
Sure, I can tackle that one, Bob. If your child is currently in the gifted program in 6th grade at the elementary school, they have a gifted IEP, they have a gifted case manager, and they will talk to you about the transition to the middle school guidance program. Oh, I'm sorry, the gifted program. If your child is not gifted and that's something that you're looking into, I would suggest that you contact your child's guidance counselor at the elementary level to talk about, what that program looks like and if that's something you're interested in your child, testing for. But as far as going from the 6th grade gifted program to the 7th grade, they will carry their gifted IEP into middle school. They will have a gifted case manager here in the middle school, and they will have the opportunity to take that gifted seminar class as a 5th major on their schedule.
Bob, if I could jump in, you were speaking earlier about them having to choose music and the math being off a rubric. The other program that they can choose is whether they want to be in the 6th level or the 6P level. The P being the project-based class in English, world cultures, and science. So they do have that choice as well.
And I would say that the recommendation there is, again, discuss that with your 6th grade teacher right now. I would say right now, this year. Right. You could talk to them about what the recommendation is there and then why and what the benefits of that or challenges it might be for each individual student. It's not something we can answer that question of how that gets selected for your child. It's something you would talk to your 6th grade teacher about. Just kind of rolling back here. Music. What happens for a student that's currently virtual? I don't know. And this is a new world in the last 2 years for us, right? So we have students that are in the virtual program for the elementary school, and then there's a particular question about that students coming back 3rd trimester for in-person learning at their elementary school. But I would say generally virtual. What happens to a student who's fully virtual this year at the elementary school, and the recommendations where that's coming from, if it's still from that same virtual teacher, and if you're coming back, that's the second part of this, and you're going to be here for 3rd trimester, which teacher makes that recommendation? Would it be the virtual teacher, or would it be the 6th grade teacher they're with in 3rd trimester?
So I'll jump in. I can.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
I mean, so the end of the trimester is approaching in early March, and it's kind of around the same time when we are, of course, selection is happening. So the initial recommendations would definitely come from the virtual teacher because they've been with them for the first 2 trimesters. However, there's a little bit of time that they may be with that in-person teacher as well. So I definitely, we don't have that many students returning third marking period. We'll have to look at how many of those are in 6th grade, but I do think there would be some collaborative conversations between the in-person teacher and the virtual teacher. But I will say that the virtual teacher has been with them from the beginning of the year until March. So their recommendation would be the most important one.
Awesome. The couple other questions about music. And I know this was talked about a little bit before in some of the other sessions we've had. When we're talking about the schedule in general, are there opportunities, students, and I don't know if Sean or Kyle, you guys want to take this, to take both chorus and band, or band and orchestra, or is it you can only take the one? How does that work out for a 7th grade student if they wanted to take more than one music?
So generally the student would have to choose one. So what really happens is the music teachers at the elementary level, they will have the students select their top choice, and then they'll also have them select a second choice. So with some of the changes in the schedule, there's a possibility that we might be able to work in a second choice for some students. But generally the case going into this year is it has not been an option. So just in case it does become an option, the student would pick their first choice, and then they would also list their second choice. And if there's any way for us to make that happen, we absolutely will. But at this point in time, generally they get one music, so we would take their top choice.
And on that, Bob, sometimes students have done this. They've selected orchestra, but then they've tried out for like the ensemble choir or some of the select choral performances and have participated in that, or vice versa, has taken a chorus class and then tried out for the strings ensemble. So students can find opportunities if they can't get both of them to be able at least to pursue both areas, whether one be in the class and the other be in the extracurricular activity.
And that's where I'm starting getting a little bit on those kinds of activities and even extracurricular activities here. And I think I know this is course selection night to talk about what courses are selected, but generally I think a lot of sixth grade parents wonder too, how do I learn more about Pembroke, Penfield, Pendale? How do I learn more about the school and the other nights that we're going to have and orientation and those types of things? I know we typically have a transition night. What will parents be looking for this spring and into the fall as far as getting to know the middle school that their child's going to be going to? What do we have typically in the lineup for our sixth grade coming into seventh grade students to know what's happening in the school outside of their schedule? I'm going to throw that to Kyle.
I'll take it. So I think generally, we have a bunch of different opportunities, like kids will come up, to view our school plays, so that they'll have those opportunities. And generally sometime, pre-COVID in May, we had kids do tours. I think we're going to be continuing doing that in May, at some opportunity there. And then before school begins, like a couple days before school begins, we have our web leaders and a web activity for all rising seventh graders. This is usually the day before school begins, with all seventh graders will come into the building, meet their teachers, walk their schedules, do a few welcoming activities. So we do try and provide as many opportunities as possible for students to transition themselves, see the building, walk the building before they set foot here on the first day of seventh grade in the end of August.
I'll throw out too, with the orientation that happens over the summer, that's in person, we generally have an open house as well. So parents, if it's your first student to be coming through one of the middle schools, the students will come in during the day, and then at night there will be an open house if you want to come back with your student and you want to walk the building with them, so you can kind of see the inside of the building, see where they're walking from class to class. That's open as well. So there'll be a lot of opportunities once your students graduate sixth grade, kind of at the end, as they're celebrating graduating sixth grade, you'll be put on our distribution list. So as we send out any updates over the summer, all of you will get that from your respective principal. So there will definitely be a lot of outreach to really make sure that your students feel welcomed at whichever middle school they do attend.
And I can also echo some other things that counselors will be going out to visit the sixth graders in the buildings, usually April, May, just to introduce ourselves to them, answer questions they have about middle school, how not to get lost. Do we really have a pool up on the roof? All the things that kids always want to know. Sports programs, clubs, activities, just to help us, deal with the transition and ease any fears or worries that the kids have coming into seventh grade. So we'll be out in the buildings talking to the sixth graders in the spring as well.
Excellent. And there'll be lots of communication coming to you from your middle school about those opportunities as well, and what those dates and times are. A couple questions about dates and times. As far as extracurriculars for seventh grade students, a couple sports questions here. Are there, I don't know how it works for seventh grade going in, in the summer, obviously at the high school level and at the ninth grade level, there's camps and whatnot to begin in August to get ready for the fall. What does it look like for a seventh grader when we talk about athletics and the opportunities seventh graders have at the middle schools?
I mean, seventh graders have the opportunity to participate. I believe it's football, soccer, I think we have field hockey also. I think I'm missing one more sport in the fall, but those don't start until after school begins. It's usually about the second week of school after school begins is when tryouts begin. Students do have to submit all of their paperwork. So I will, suggest if your son or daughter is interested in trying out for a fall sport, on each building's Pendale, Penfield, and Pembroke webpage, there is an athletics webpage also, and it highlights the information that you need to complete for your son or daughter. They do have to have a physical completed. I believe it's after June 1st of this year, or it might be June 31st, but they have to have a physical completed, and all paperwork needs to be submitted before kids can try out. But all that information will be highlighted on our webpage and basically broadcasted to the students when they do come to school.
Excellent. I might throw this one at Dr. McKenna here. Mike, how does it work? We've got a couple parents here that are coming from private school or outside of North Penn. They're not currently at a North Penn elementary school right now. How does that look and how do they get their selections in? Is it part of the registration process? When did they begin their process to figure out what the course will be since they're coming into 7th grade at a North Penn school this year?
First, Bob, they need to register, go through a registration office. All of our registration is now online. Deborah Vazo is in charge of our registration process. And again, it's fully online now. But again, she is able to answer questions. Any of those families can also send me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions they may have. But typically we look at any documentation or paperwork from the school that they're coming from to help make those decisions. And then obviously in looking at that, we probably communicate with whatever middle school that they would be attending for 7th grade and use all the information that we currently have to make those best decisions as far as course placement.
Bob, real quick, those students, if they're starting in 7th grade at North Penn, would meet or talk to the counselor at the middle school they're going to, and we would help set them up with a schedule. Just like Dr. McKenna said, that we would get their information, then we would talk to them, explain our process, and situate them as far as their schedule is concerned.
Excellent. A question about special education, students in the special education program, and it's vast. So I know it's a tough question, but generally what does that look like for a student that's coming from 6th grade into 7th grade? What are the types of courses and what's the different program elements look like in 7th grade for a student that's currently in the special education program? What are the types of things we see in 7th grade? And who best to talk to about what it'll look like for their particular child? Because obviously lots of different needs for our students and what that could look like. But generally, what would be a good answer to say, what does it look like in 7th grade compared to the elementary? How is it different?
Well, Bob, I think the first thing is if you have specific questions to your student on that, the best place to start is with your special education case manager. They can get the special ed supervisor involved as well and answer some more specific questions. It depends really on what the needs of the child are. We do have special education students. I saw one of the questions, are they in regular ed classes? Some are. So I would actually say most are in regular education classes. If your student is recommended for a co-taught classroom, they're going to be in a classroom with basically a regular education classroom with a special ed teacher in there to co-teach. So there's a little bit added support in a classroom like that. And then there's also special programs. If you're talking more for, autistic support or things like that, we have those classrooms in the middle schools as well. So it's kind of hard to answer that without knowing the specifics of your student. So I would suggest that you reach out to their case manager and they can get you in touch if they have questions to the supervisor here at the middle schools, and we can kind of walk through specifics of that student.
And since you're on my screen now, just a question about what the schedule looked like. Obviously, some parents have had their students go through our last 2 years of what our middle school schedule looks like now. We have a whole presentation about scheduling and what it'll look like that can be found on our YouTube channel here at youtube.com/NPTV, also under guidance, and you can find it there as well, and also under for families at npenn.org. But generally, if you can talk to what it looks like from a math standpoint, when we talked about some of those major changes we made that are different than what the current schedule looks like at the middle school.
Sure. So to try to answer that hour presentation in a minute so that I don't bog everything down here. This year we do block scheduling at the middle schools, and it's a semester by semester. So right now students would have, say, math in the first semester, and then they wouldn't have it in the second semester. So after hearing some feedback about that the last 2 years, we are making a change to that where we will continue in block scheduling, but it'll be an A-B schedule. And what that means is if a student has math on day 1, they would also have it on day 3, day 5, day 7, and then they would have different majors on day 2, day 4, day 6. So basically what it is every major course the students will have every other day for the entirety of the year. So if you have a student with math and the question was, are they going to have it full year? Yes, they are. So next year, that's a significant change to the schedule. There is a full presentation. It's about an hour long on all of the guidance pages. And if you have any further questions about that, you can always reach out to anybody here on the call and we can answer more specifics.
And we talked about level 6.0 and 6P and the differences between that. And again, if you've got questions about where your student should be placed, talk to your classroom teacher right now, your 6th grade teacher. The math requirements, the options there. Are there opportunities for an advanced level already in 7th grade, or does that begin in 8th grade? What's that look like on the options for math for an incoming 7th grade student?
So I can say that the math placements are done on a rubric. So they do look at a lot of different data points and then make the recommendation for where the students would be. If you're looking to advance, say, a course advancement route, that does not become an option until after the student completes 7th grade. So that would be next summer if your student is, say, in Algebra 1 this year and wants to course advance geometry. That's available for 7th graders rising to 8th grade is the first time that that's available.
But you have to complete the Algebra 1 class before you can course advance a geometry class.
Okay, I'm just going through trying to group some of these together with the math pieces here. There's another one in here. This is what I'm going to do while I'm looking at these questions too. I'm going to share my screen because if you go to, here we go, npen.org, you're going to find a whole section on middle school program of studies. There's some questions about seeing the courses, the descriptions, those types of things. So this is what we've got on our main website under for families. And then this is middle school program is what you're going to select. And you can go through here and read through this as a 6th grade parent to get a sense of some of these pieces. It may generate more questions that you might have for your counselor at your elementary school, but you can look through here and look at the course requirements and those types of things that are in 7th grade. This presentation here will be posted here in this area as well, but that's under for families, middle school program of studies. I know we had a bunch of questions of where do I find some additional information online, and this is where it would be. Dr. Sullivan, I know you've been reviewing here. Are we missing anything? There are some very specific questions in here. And again, I don't want to dive deep into individual questions for students. And we do ask you to reach out to your elementary 6th grade teacher or the school counselor there. Are there any others that you guys see here that we need to jump into? I'm just there's a bunch I'm trying to sort through.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through them also here, but there are some very specific. And I think with the specific questions, like I'm seeing, what are some of the difference between math classes or what would my child take? Please just reach out to your student's guidance counselor. I guess if you're unsure which middle school your child will go to, I'm going to, look at the guidance counselors here and just I'm going to try and run it off correctly. And I could be incorrect on this, so please forgive me on this. But if you are at Hatfield, General Nash, there is a portion of Culp. What's the one on the far one, Mrs. Conti?
Walton Farm.
Walton Farm.
And a portion of Oak Park, and probably 3 kids from Gwinnett Square.
You will be going to Penfield, if in that. I will then say for Mr. Clancy and Dr. Jenkins, I know it's Gwen Noor. There's a portion of Bridle Path, which will attend. And then right there, I draw a blank on that one. So I'm going to look to Mr. Clancy.
North Wales Elementary and Montgomery Elementary.
And
you'll have the pleasure of being with me and Dr. Jenkins.
So you will go to Pembroke, and everyone else, you're going to Penndale. And there are some split elementaries, but if you are, obviously your guidance counselors will be, reaching out to you and your students and letting you know, which middle school you'll be attending.
Can I jump in real quick and just say that at Penndale, because there's 4 counselors in 3 grades, we actually go across all 3 grades and we split it by alphabet. So if your last name begins with A through F, Mrs. Wagner will be your school counselor. If it's G through L, then you really hit the lottery and I'm your school counselor. If it's M through R, Mr. Harvey is your school counselor. And if it's S through Z, Mrs. Reichwein is your school counselor. And that's all listed on our website as well.
And I would say the important thing here, that's a ton of information. It's all on the school websites on their guidance page. And if you email the wrong school, anybody on this call, just email one of us and we will get you to the right person to answer your question.
Hey, Mr. Gilman, I'm going to also note, I'm seeing a lot of questions on language and asking our kids taking a language as a seventh grader. Seventh graders will take exploratory language, which will be currently it's a trimester of Spanish, French, and German. In eighth grade is when they get to select a specific language that they would like to study for the first year. But in seventh graders, they get a real taste of all three languages that we offer at the middle school, which again are Spanish, French, and German.
And just looking for a definition, because sometimes our titles of our courses don't match what the subject is. Can someone explain what literary explorations are? What that course is? It's reading, right? That's the reading class.
course.
Okay. I didn't think that was a tough one, but yeah. So sometimes the course you say, oh, what's that mean? That's reading. And that's what that looks like in seventh grade. As far as the 6P and that structure, when you look at eighth grade, we got a parent wondering, moving ahead, how does the structure change? This isn't necessarily a particularly seventh grade question, but I'm in 6P for my English, my world cultures, those types of things. What does the grade leveling or those course types look like going into eighth and then ninth grade? Obviously, ninth grade, you begin your high school career at that point, with high school types of things, and it ends up on a transcript. How's that changed from 7 through 9?
7 and 8 are pretty much the same as far as English, world cultures, and science are concerned. Ninth grade, it does change a bit because, like you said, you're going into the high school. But for 7th and 8th grade, it'll be 6 or 6P for English, science, and world cultures / history.
Excellent. I think we have maybe some folks join just a little bit late here, but from the timeline again for course selection, these are really for most of your courses recommendations about what level your student's going to be going into. You're going to be choosing, you're just going to be choosing your music, basically, just to review again. So the choice is there. When I say you're choosing, there's nothing for the parents to necessarily do an infinite campus or a card to fill out or anything else, but it's something that gets, the decision gets relayed to the music teacher at your school and the school counselor, and that's part of the scheduling there. So from a thing a parent needs to do, if we can just review that. So as a 6th grade parent, like, what do I have to do? I don't want to miss out. I want to make sure my kid gets band, and because he plays clarinet right now, it's really important. What do parents need to do during this process to make sure they don't miss anything? And I'm kind of saying that tongue in cheek, so they're not really going to miss anything. So what does a parent need to do right now? Mike, I don't know if you want to jump in on that.
Sure. So really, it's just, as Dr. O'Sullivan and Ms. Conti said, when that recommendation sheet comes home, just take a look at it. If there's anything that you have a question about, reach out to your teacher in 6th grade. If you don't like the band recommendation or orchestra recommendation, chorus, whatever the recommendation is, have a conversation with them. If you disagree with the recommendation on the level of English, science, or history, or world culture, or if you just want to be in the P level class, you have the option to choose that. Just let them know, and then they'll let us know. So really, you're not going to miss anything, and we have plenty of time to make those changes. You just got to let us know once you see them if you have a disagreement. And by us, I mean your 6th grade teacher. And if they've already made the recommendation, they'll let us know, and we can change it at our respective schools.
So when we look at that April 29th deadline, it's really, that's the deadline to tell us that.
Correct.
Like, hey, you have band. I want my kid playing violin, and that's what I want them to take in 7th grade. That would be by then, is the 29th, is that date, that deadline that you're looking at. So if I don't do anything, I see the card, I'm like, this looks great. Is there something I need to do? If I'm like, this, you guys did a great job, everything's perfect.
Everything's perfect then. No need to do anything at all.
All right, very good. All right, I'm going to scroll through here a little bit more. Simple question here. I see Dr. Sullivan's starting to answer. Like, someone just had a question about how come some elementary schools get split between two different middle schools in that school. Obviously, it comes down to our boundaries and our ability to fill each school and make sure we have an appropriate number of students in each building. Penndale's a little bit larger, so more kids go to that from that same area. But definitely there's some schools where some might go to, say, Penfield, and then others go to Penndale, depending on where you live. And if you're not clear which middle school you're going to go to, again, if you talk to your teacher and your school counselor at your school, they know exactly where their students are going and which streets and neighborhoods, if there is a split at that school. I think we've answered most of these. If parents have any more questions, please add them in there. We're going to keep looking through this. And I knew this was going to come up because I said ninth grade is high school. So ninth grade is at the middle schools. However, ninth grade is considered traditionally part of the high school experience. Here at North Penn, we're 7, 8, 9 for our middle schools, and the high school proper in the building where you go to school is 10 through 12. However, ninth grade affects, as you get into ninth grade planning, affects and plans of what you're doing in your high school career, because ninth grade is considered part of your transcript of your high school experience. There's also lots of questions about ninth graders going to the high school for certain courses. You're in seventh grade, we're okay. That's for another night. But I knew when I said that earlier, someone might get caught up thinking, wait, I thought ninth grade was at the middle school. So ninth grade is at the middle school, physically at the middle school. As far as all the other questions, I see a lot of things looking again for the course selections and the program of studies, those types of things. For families on npen.org, go to the middle school program of studies. Also at each middle school, you have the middle school, Penndale, Penfield, Pembroke. You can select those at the top of the page, and then you go to our school and then guidance. And I was talking a lot and not reading. Folks, do we see anything else we think we want to hit here for our seventh grade parents?
I just want to just clear the air that there are no pools on the roofs of our middle schools. So sorry for that. But yeah, that is not true. Thank you.
This is why the orientations and the nights that sixth graders get to come to the building and do that. And there are also no pools on any of our roofs of any of our buildings. As you get to the high school, there's no third floor pool either there. So as we get into that. All righty. Any final thoughts as we're looking here? I'm just going to go through, see if we missed any major points here. Again, the specific questions here, go ahead and reach out to your school sixth grade teacher and school counselor. They have tons of information for you, and then they can answer your specific questions. But any final thoughts from our panel tonight as we talk to our sixth grade parents going into seventh grade? I know it's a big move. It can be a little daunting because you're going to go to a big school. I'm the sixth grade parent. Talk to me. Talk to our sixth grade parents about what they can look forward to for information and the transition that we find with most sixth graders going into seventh grade and what that's like. So tell us everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. No, seriously, everything is going to be okay. It is a big transition. There's no doubt about it. And it's not easy, but that's what we're here for. We're here to help you and your student make the transition as easy as possible and as fluid as possible. So if you have questions or concerns, find the right person. Anyone on this panel, as Mr. Hassler said, if you're not sure, email anyone on the panel. We'll find the right person for you. That's why we're here. Our whole job is to make sure that your son or daughter has the best possible experience they can have in their middle school time period. So just utilize the resources that you have. The other thing I'll say is, from a child or a student standpoint, get involved. Doesn't matter which middle school you're at, get involved. It's the best way to make new friends. It's the best way to become a part of the school. It's there's no other way. There's no other better way to just be a part of your school. So.
I'm just going to throw in there as we get into final thoughts here. I did see two questions, and these are important because we talked about registration for private school. If you're currently enrolled in a North Penn school right now, you're not registering for seventh grade. You don't have to register for that. That's for anybody, and that's not for our virtual students in the North Penn Elementary virtual program. It is for students who are not currently enrolled in a North Penn school that would have to register. And as far as transportation and buses and all those types of things, again, those are not things you need to request. That's all part of our normal mode, just like now. If you have a bus going to your elementary school, you'll have a bus, most likely. I shouldn't say that. Depends on where you live. But you'll have a bus. That's all part of the process of scheduling and starting up next school year. So earlier we talked about registration. That is strictly for private school or students coming in from out of the school district that will be attending North Penn schools next year, but are not currently in a North Penn school district school. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on there. I saw a couple questions on that. Any other final thoughts?
And just to kind of go along with that, Mr. Gilmer, just so parents know, I think we said this in the Rising 8th grade night earlier tonight, but schedules will be sent out the first or second week in August. So I know that you're doing a lot right now and seeing the recommendations. The actual student schedules, they go home in the beginning of August. That's when you'll get your bus information, and really just more information about the schools in general. So those schedules for your student, what courses they're in, where they meet in the day, that'll all go out in the beginning of August. And then just to echo what Mr. Flynn said, all of us are here to help. I know this could be a big transition for sixth graders coming up to a new building. We want to make it as smooth as possible. So anywhere along the way, if you have any questions, concerns, or just want to sit down and talk and kind of talk through the transition, please reach out to any of us. We would be more than happy to help.
Bob, I just saw a quick question, or I just saw a question I just really want to quickly answer. If your student is particularly good in English, they can just be in an English P course. They do not have to be in all three. They can choose whichever one or all three if they want, but they don't have to choose all three. They can choose 1, 2, or 3.
And Bob, I'm also going to jump in on something I saw. People are asking the questions of the middle school hours. Middle school for classes are in session. We usually have the first bell rings at 7:55. Class begins around 8:03. The day ends at 2:55. However, depending upon if you take a bus, sometimes the buses pick kids up as early as 7:15 or 7:20. So as Mr. Hassler was, and Mr. Gilmer were kind of talking about this, in August in Infinite Campus, all this information will be loaded in into the Infinite Campus portal. And there's a tab there that has transportation. So if you are a bus rider and you click on that tab, it will tell you exactly where your bus will pick you up and the time it will pick you up and what bus number you will be riding. We do remind kids on the first day, remember your bus, just so you know what bus number you're riding. And then when you're leaving, it will also tell you where it's going to drop you off and what time you will be dropped off at that bus stop. So again, all that information will be loaded up into Infinite Campus in late August when the schedules are released. But the hours are school begins, kids are expected to be in class, 7:55, 8 o'clock, and the day ends at 2:55.
Excellent. And again, I'll tell you to reach out again. I know I see some questions about some particular situations for parents/students. Definitely contact your school, whether they're transportation questions or leveling questions, those types of things. They're all there to help you to figure that out. Again, for us to answer, they're all general answers and questions that we come here. So there's very specific ones. You just reach out to your homeschool, your sixth grade teacher, your elementary school counselor right now, and they should be able to help you figure out what that'll look like there. All right. Final thoughts. Third time, final thoughts. Anything else we want to wrap before we wrap up tonight? Appreciate everybody being here tonight for our incoming 7th grade course selection night. This is about course selection. This presentation is available if you came in a little bit late. It's on YouTube right now. As soon as we're over, it'll be there, so you can start from the beginning and watch there again and check any of those pieces there. The slide deck we have will also be posted, which you can check out under middle schools, the middle school page, our schools, and then guidance is where you're going to be able to find that. Again, great resources at our elementary schools to answer lots of the questions we have here. And there's going to be lots more information. There's lots more. This is just course selection. There is the whole, what's it look like when my kid goes to the middle school and the orientations, and what kind of backpack or not backpack, or how do I carry my books, or where do I put do I get a locker? All of those types of questions will come in as part of our orientation process as we go into the summertime and get ready for the beginning of the school year. These are always lots of questions parents have, but that's also why we continue to communicate and talk to you about this transition from 6th grade to 7th grade. If that's it, I'm going to say we can all do the big old Zoom wave. We appreciate everybody being with us tonight. If you have any questions, go ahead and review this again, contact your elementary school, and we're all here to help and figure out any of your questions you may have and answers that you need going into next year. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. We'll say goodnight, and we'll see everybody later. Stay safe, everyone.